Okay, I've had some requests to create videos for some of our lab assignments. Let's start with our review assignment for tutorial 6, which is on page EX353. Locate the folder that has all the files that are necessary. Let's launch Excel 2010. And here's the situation. Elaine Dennerson, accountant for global travel in Oregon, needs our help. Global Travel has added Oregon to its Northwest territory, which already includes Washington and Idaho. You will complete the summary worksheet in the Oregon Workbook and then enter the formulas in the NW Totals 2013 Workbook to summarize the regional totals in one workbook. A little confusing, but in essence we're adding another area to our area. So we're going to start by opening the Oregon Workbook. So in my case here, we're going to go to File, Open. I have it in my OneDrive, 2014-108, Student Files, Tutorial 6, Excel 6, Review, and we're opening our OR Excel file. We're going to save this workbook as Oregon. So being that it's an existing workbook, we're going to go to File, Save As, and Oregon. And the same folder that we have our OR file in. In the documentation sheet, we need to put in our name and date. Under author, there he goes, and today's date 4/16/2014. Step 3. Create a worksheet group that contains quarter 1 through quarter 4 worksheets. Okay, so we know that we have to click on our very first sheet as part of our grouped worksheets, hold down the Shift key. Remember the Shift key, not the Control key, the Shift key. And then we're going to click on quarter 4. So now all of these sheets except for documentation are going to be white, and it indicates that it is a grouped number of sheets by looking at the title, Oregon XLSX, and then it says group next to the title of our workbook. Now we're going to insert formulas in the grouped worksheet. So we're going to enter formulas that will apply to all of the worksheets that are currently grouped, which is quarter 1 through quarter 4. So in the range B13 through E13, so B13 through E13, we're going to insert formulas to total each column. Well, we know how to do that the simple way, right? Just go to our auto sum, and the formula automatically goes in. Now we're going to continue adding some formatting to our grouped worksheets. So we're going to bold the range A1 through B2. So let's highlight that, A1 through B2. At the same time highlighting A6 through A13, so hold down the Control key, A6 through A13, and then continue to hold down the Control key and highlight the range B4 through E5, and we're going to make that bold. Now we're going to merge and center the range B1E1. So we're going to go to B1 through E1. Merge and center. And then we're going to merge and center B2 through E2. merge and center B4 through C4 and D4 through E4. Now we're going to format the range A6 through A12 in italics. So highlight A6 through A12 and we're going to italicize that. We're going to add a top and double bottom border to the range B13 through E13. So B13 through E13. We're going to add a top and bottom border. So being that we don't have that option, actually yes we do. So there's a top and double bottom border, and if we click away we can see how that formatting took place. Another way we could have done this is to have gone to our font dialog box launcher, and that would have brought up our dialog box, gone to border, and we could have selected single and then highlighted the top of the border, and then we could have selected the double line and then selected down at the bottom. But since we already have a preset function for that, then that would have been obviously the easier way to go. Now we're going to add a fill color to the range B1 E2. So let's highlight B1 through E2, and the fill color we're using is orange from our standard color. So we go to our bucket, that's our fill color, and if you're never sure where that is, you simply hold the mouse over it and you will get a tooltip indicating what it is. So we go to orange. If you're not sure where it is, you hold the mouse there until you get a tooltip and choose orange. And now we're going to apply the accounting number format with no decimal places to range D6 E13. So we're going to go to D6 through E13, highlight first, and we're applying the accounting number format. So accounting number format, but we want no decimal places. So the easiest way really is just to go to our decrease decimal button, click twice, and no more decimal places. So that takes us to step number 6. In step number 6, we're going to make a copy of the quarter 1 worksheet. So there's several different ways of doing that. We could, well, first we need to ungroup these, right? So we know that if we click on an ungrouped or one of the tabs, one of the sheets that's not in the group, it'll take away the grouping. Another way is to right mouse click on any of the grouped sheets and click on group sheet, so our group disappears from the title. We are going to make a copy of the quarter 1 worksheet. So we learned how to do it by holding down the control key and then dragging, click and dragging it, and it wants it placed after documentation. So once we create it, we can move it back over because it wants it after the documentation sheet. I'm assuming it's going from left to right. So first we create it on the left side of documentation, then we drag it back over. And it asks us to rename that worksheet as summary. So the easiest way is to double click it, type summary, and this is a copy of our quarter 1 sheet, which is actually the same as quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. In the new summary worksheet that we just created, we're going to remove all the data from the range B6 through E12. So B6 through E12, we're going to clear the data and the data only. So we go to our clear button and only clear the content, so that way our formatting stays in place. In the heading B2, we're going to rename it Theme Park Ticket Sales Total. So we're simply going to replace quarter 1 with total. And then we're going to enter in cell A2, we're going to enter fiscal year 2013. That takes us to step number 8. In worksheets Q1 through Q4, we're going to enter formulas to reference the label in cells A1. So here's what we're looking for. In the sheets Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, in all of them, we want it to reflect what is in the summary sheet, cell A1 and 2. So, since we want that data to show up in all of the quarters, all of the sheets, we're going to group the sheets together first. So, hold down the shift key. Now we have all of them grouped. And we're going to go to cell A1. And we're going to enter the formula. All formulas start with equal. So equals. And then we're going to type summary, exclamation point, and then A1. So what are we saying? We're saying to put in the formula in all the sheets that will reflect cell A1 of the summary worksheet. So if we click our checkbox, that is going to reflect what is in the summary sheet, which is Oregon. So we're going to do the exact same thing in cell A2. We're still in the grouped sheets. Equals summary, exclamation point, cell A2. So now all of the quarters are reflecting what is in the cells of the summary sheet in cell A2. And that takes us to step number 9. In step number 9, we're going to create a 3D reference formula to calculate the annual totals for the theme park tickets sold. Okay, so here's what we need to do. First of all, we need to ungroup our sheets. So let's click on the summary sheet. So we want each of these cells to reflect the sum of the same cells of all the quarters. So the sum. So we know we're going to put in a function. Let's start with, we're going to click on the cell B6. So we want the sum of all the cells B6s of all these sheets. Equals, and we know it's a function. We know it's a sum function. We should know by now. So sum, we start with our parentheses, and now we click on the first quarter sheet, Q1 sheet, and then hold down the shift key, click on Q4. Notice our formula indicates the range Q1 through Q4, and then we click on cell B6 because those are the cells that we're adding from all of the other sheets. Once we have the marquee, we can either hit enter or close our parentheses. I feel better closing the parentheses. That way we may not get an error, or we make sure that there's no errors. Besides that, we know that we have to have that close parentheses. So close parentheses and then hit enter. Do not go clicking anywhere else at this point. Notice that once I chose the cells, I hit close the parentheses, hit enter. So that adds all of the cells from B6 from quarters 1 through 4. Let's do the same thing for cell C6. Start formulas with an equals. And actually, I skipped a step here. Equals. We know we want a sum function, parentheses, you know what? We are about to mess this up. So let's just escape the situation. Make sure that only the summary is highlighted. I noticed that both the summary and the Q1 worksheets were highlighted, and that would probably create some kind of redundancy error. So let's start over. Equals sum, parentheses, Q1, hold on the shift key, Q4, click on cell C6, close parentheses, enter. Going to cell D6, equals sum, parentheses, quarter 1, hold down the shift key, quarter 4, click on D6, close parentheses, enter. Now we're in cell E6, equals sum, parentheses, quarter 1, hold down the shift key, quarter 4, click on cell E6, close parentheses, enter. Now that we've gotten all these formulas in place, let's just double check them. This should have B6, quarter 1, quarter 4, the C6, quarter 1 through quarter 4, D6, quarter 1 through quarter 4, E6, quarter 1 through quarter 4. So the easiest way to propagate or to copy these formulas is to drag them down to 12, and you should hopefully have the same numbers that I have here. So that will take us to step number 10. Before moving on to step 10, make it a habit to look at your autofill options, and if you have any formatting in any of the cells that you're copying to or next to, try to make it a habit to fill without formatting. That way you're not taking, for example, in our case down here, we will not take away the borders. So it's possible that if we copy down, we may take away the border that we may have created. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. If we can test it. If we click on copy cells, and okay, it looks like nothing changed. I guess it's because we actually applied the border to the range below, and we didn't do a bottom border to the range directly above that single line. So just kind of play with it, make sure that you don't mess up the formatting. Just be careful. For step 10, we're going to prepare all worksheets except documentation. So all worksheets except documentation. That's going to be summary, quarter 1 through quarter 4. For printing, display the name of the workbook and the name of the worksheet on separate lines in the right section of the header. So here we're going to work on the header now. So we're going to click on summary, which is the first sheet, hold on the shift key, and go to quarter 4. In order to make changes that will reflect in printing, we go to page layout, right? If it were simply for viewing on the monitor, then we would look at the view tab. So we go to our page. Actually, since we're working on the headers and footers, yeah, we're working on the header. So we're preparing to print. So go to File, go to Print, and let's go to Page Setup, Header, Footer, and in the header they want to show two things. So we're going to do a custom header, and we want to display the name of the workbook and the name of the worksheet on separate lines in the right section. Okay, so first of all, let's choose the right section of the header. And then we want to display the name of the workbook and the name of the worksheet. So the name of the workbook, if we hold the mouse over some of these, the name of the workbook is really the name of the file. So we're going to click the file name, that's the name of the workbook, and now the name of the worksheet on a separate line. So we're going to hit enter, and we go to the right, and that should display our, well, that's going to be our sheet name. That's on separate lines. And now we're going to display your name and the date on separate lines in the right section of the footer. So we're going to click OK. And now we're going to go to custom footer, and on the right section of the footer we're going to display the name. So because it's your name, you're going to insert text at this point. So just go ahead and type your name. Oops. And in the new line, we're going to display the date. So the date, you go to the calendar and then click on date. Click OK. And then we're going to click OK. And we're going to look at the preview. So as we can see on the 5 pages that we have highlighted, first we have the summary sheet. That was our summary sheet. And quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Now I went to the backstage view first. I could have very easily have gone to where we were at the beginning. Our sheets are still grouped. Page layout, launch the page setup, header, footer. Okay, so 2 different ways to get to the same place. Either way is acceptable. Either way will get you, like I said, to the same place. Now we're going to step 11 and we're going to ungroup the worksheets. So I've showed you 2 different ways of ungrouping sheets. I'm just going to do it this way. I feel more comfortable with it. We could have just clicked on documentation, but I prefer the other way. And we're going to save our workbook. Now we're going to open some additional workbooks. So leaving your Oregon file open, your Oregon workbook, we are going to open the NW Totals 2013. So File, Open, and make sure you're in Excel 6 Review folder. NW 2013. And we're going to save this workbook as Northwest Totals. So File, Save As, Northwest Totals 2013. Northwest Totals 2013. We're going to put our name in the author field, the date, today's date. Oops, 14. And in the summary sheet, we're going to enter some external references. So we're going to put an external reference formula to create a set of linked workbooks to summarize the totals for Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. So we're going to need of these workbooks open. So we already have Oregon open, and we have the Northwest Totals open. So let's go ahead and open Washington and Idaho. So File, Open, Washington, and let's open Idaho. That takes us to step number 14. And the easiest way to really look at all the data is to go to our View tab, because we're affecting the way the window is going to be, or the files, the worksheets are going to be presented to us on a monitor. So we're going to go to, first of all, let's make sure we have all the files open. We go to Switch Windows, and we have the 4 files that we need. We have the Idaho, Washington, Northwest Totals, and Oregon. So they're all there. Let's arrange these in such a way that we can see them all. And really the easiest way is to click on the Arrange button, have them tiled, and click OK. So we have our 4 files open. And we want to create hyperlinks from each state label to its corresponding workbook. But let's see, we're actually skipping a step on 13. In the summary worksheet, enter external reference formulas to create a set of linked workbooks to summarize the totals for Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and the Northwest Totals 2013 workbook. Okay, so we're skipping a step here. Let's go back. Let's go to our Northwest Total sheet. That's right here. We want to create external reference formulas to summarize totals for Oregon, Washington. So here we go. We want to have the sum of these three sheets. So from B6 and then summary. So the sum of this cell plus B6 on this sheet plus B6 on this sheet should show up on this cell. So all formulas begin with sum. And then we have our parentheses. We start, just to make life easier for me, I'm just going to go down, left, up, in a clockwise motion. So we're going to click on this cell and then click, that highlights the sheet, and then click on the cell. So notice that in our formula we see the sum, parentheses, Oregon in brackets, summary because it's a summary sheet, and cell B6. Now we want to add, so plus, go to this sheet, click on it till we see the marquee, plus this workbook, click on the cell, and we're done with our formula. So we can go ahead and close our parentheses and hit enter. Now let's do it again for C6 equals sum, parentheses, C6 from Oregon plus C6 from Washington plus C6 from Idaho, close parentheses. Let's take a quick look. We kind of did the first one. We didn't go over it. Don't forget that when the cells are shown in the formula, the cells have an absolute reference. Remember, when we copy that, we're going to want to make sure that we take that into consideration. So let's go ahead and lock in our formula. Let's do it one more time, or actually two more times. Let's go to D6. So equals sum, parentheses, D6 from Oregon plus D, you know what? I clicked on the wrong, this is actually supposed to be D. D6, all right, let's take it back. And now D6 from Washington plus D6 from Idaho. Close our parentheses and hit enter. Let's just double check that formula real quick. So it's a sum from the B6 from the summary sheet in the Oregon workbook plus cell D6. So all these should be D6. So all D6s from all the summary sheets from each individual workbook. So Idaho, Washington, Oregon. Okay, I'm comfortable with that. Let's click on the next one. So equals sum, parentheses. We go to E6 from Oregon plus E6 from Washington plus E6 from Idaho. Close. Copy. So we have these numbers. The problem is if we actually copy these formulas down, we're going to get the exact same answer because we are locked, right? We have absolute references. So we know that we want to be able to make the rows relative, and it doesn't matter if the columns are absolute or not because we're not copying sideways, we're only copying down. So we're going to click on the first B6. So here, let's go back real quick. Escape the situation. We are on cell B6 of the Northwest Totals summary sheet. Our first formula contains absolute references in 3 places in our formula. So we click anywhere near the first cell reference B6, hit F4 twice on the keyboard. What that does is it keeps the column absolute, but there's no $ in front of the row, so the row is relative. we click somewhere near the next absolute reference, F4 twice, next reference, F4 twice, and then we're done. So hit enter, go to the next one. C6 is absolute, so F4 twice, C6 again absolute, F4 twice to only make the column absolute, F4 twice, and enter. Go to the next one, F4 twice, F4 twice, F4 twice, enter. Last one, F4 twice, F4 twice, F4 twice, enter. Now if we copy our formulas, because we have the mixed reference, we should be able to copy down and we're going to get different values. So there is our formulas that have linked references, but we had to change from absolute reference to mixed reference in our totals. So step 13 was kind of a big step that we had skipped. So let's go ahead and move on to step number 14. For step 14, we're going to go to the Northwest Totals 2013 workbook. All right, so let's make that active. And Northwest Totals 2013. So it was already the active workbook. And we're going to go to the documentation sheet, documentation, and in cells A10 through A12, so 1, 2, 3, in these cells, we want to enter the name for Idaho. So in A10 they want Idaho, A11 they want Oregon, and A12 they want Washington, and they want to create hyperlinks to each of the individual workbooks. So click on A10, and since we're going to insert something, right, we're going to go to the insert tab, hyperlink, and the first thing we're going to do is look at the address, and the first one they want is Idaho. So here is Idaho, and we only wanted to display Idaho, not idaho.xlsx. Click OK. In A11 they want Oregon, so there's Oregon, and we only want Oregon in the text to display. And in A12 we want Washington. And okay. Now it says something about add appropriate text for the screen tip to each hyperlink. Okay, so let's see if we forgot anything here. Let's go to edit the hyperlink, and the screen tip wants to display the name, so Idaho. And let's do the same thing. Let's see what that does. So the screen tip should be when we hold the mouse over it, and there it is. It just shows Idaho. Otherwise it's going to show the entire path. So let's go ahead and edit the hyperlink. Go to the screen tip. We're on Oregon. And the last one is going to be Washington. All right, so screen tip, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. And they want us to test the link. So let's go ahead and close our other worksheets. Save your work. You never know. And expand the new totals. So let's go ahead and test this. Click on Idaho, and there's our Idaho worksheet. toggle back. Let's click on Oregon. There's our Oregon worksheet. I should really call it a workbook. And there's Washington. So, did it work? It worked. We have all 4 of our Excel files open again. Now this is actually fairly convenient, being that step number 15 wants us to create a workspace with the following 4 files tiled together, or tiled in our workspace. They want Idaho, Oregon, Washington. So there's Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Northwest totals 2013. So they want them tiled. So how do we do that? We go to our View tab. We go to our Arrange, Tiled, and click OK. Okay, let's dismiss the emergency. Now you all know we had emergency drill at this time. So let's snooze it. And Northwest is the active cell. And we want to make sure that in all of our worksheets, Summary is the active sheet. So Summary, active sheet in all of them. That's a good thing. And we want to make total 13. Okay, so we're going to save this workspace as NW workspace. So we're going to stay in our View tab at the top, save our workspace, and make sure you save this in the same folder that you have created for tutorial 6. And this workspace is going to be called NW workspace. So NW space workspace, and that is in the in my case anyway, it's in the tutorial 6, Excel 6 review folder. So we're going to save that. And you want to change save changes that we made. Actually, we do want to save it because it was in the summary. So let's save it. And we're done with our workspace. Now, if we go to close the entire Excel sheet, it's going to ask us if we want to, it's going to close each one of the files one by one. So let's go to our folder, and we should have an NW workspace.xlw. So on yours it may not show XLW. It may just say NW workspace. That's alright. When you double click it, it'll open right back to the way we saved it. Oh, here we go. Well, it's going to open it in 2013. That's not what we want, because the formatting from 2013 does not come over to from 2010. So we're going to try this a different way. I'm going to open with, so I'm right clicking on the workspace, and we're going to open with, and it should give us, there's Excel 2010. So there's Excel 2010, opens exactly the way we saved it. So we're going to go to actually, we're going to close this now. So let's close our files. Since we haven't changed anything, let's not save anything. And close our last one. Now they want us to create a new workbook based on the NW travel. So we go to File, we're going to New, and because we're already creating something from a template, we're going to go to New from Existing, and we're going to go to our folder where our tutorial 6 information is. So in my case, it's in my one tutorial 6, Excel 6, review, and we should have a NW travel template. So it's not going to be an XLSX, it's going to be an XLTX for template. So there's our template, and we're going to create a new worksheet from that template. Notice that even though the name of the template was NW Travel, but it puts a 1. So immediately if we go to click on the save button, it's going to bring up a save as dialog box. So we create a new template and we're going to save this workbook as Oregon 2014. So let's just click on our save button. It brings up a save as dialog box, and this is going to be Oregon 2014 in the same folder, so make sure it's in the same folder as we have all of our other information. And now it's saving it as an XLSX. So we created from an XLTX. Now it's XLSX, from a template to a workbook. And in the documentation sheet, we're going to put our name and the author, the date, and in the summary worksheet, so here's our summary worksheet, we're going to enter Oregon in cell A1, A1, and we're going to enter fiscal year hyphen 2014 in cell A2. So fiscal year hyphen 2014 in cell A2, and in quarter one worksheet, we're going to enter 2000 in each cell of the range B6 through C12. So we're going to input 2000 in each cell B6 through C12. Okay? So B6 through C12. So we're going to enter 2000. So we can copy across through C12. And because we do want that, we don't want any increments. So we don't really have to do anything with our autofill button. And now we're going to enter each cell range B6 through C12. And then in quarter two, we're going to enter 3000 in the range B6 through C12. So 3000. And let's go ahead and enter it through C12, B6 through C12. And we're going to confirm that the values in these steps actually do total together in the summary sheet. So there it is. 2 plus 3 is 5, 3500. That looks like it is recorded well. We're going to save our workbook. And step 18 goes on to save to your SkyDrive. Well, we pretty much already do that. Hopefully you all have some form of online storage. And so that is pretty much it. What I want you to submit is going to be Oregon 2014 XLSX. And I want you to also upload, well, let's see, what files should you upload? Let's go ahead and close this. I want you to upload all the files that you worked on. So all the files that I worked on this afternoon are Washington, Oregon, NW Workspace, Northwest Totals, Idaho, and Oregon. I want all of them uploaded. All right, I will see you in class, and I will try to record case problem 2.